I think we have to work towards looking at residential containment boundaries that make sense on a bigger scale, on a bigger valley concept. Do we really need to look at, let's get realistic knowing what we know today, and it will be time to redo our OCP very shortly. We could actually start now, except what we're suggesting is let's at least wait until we do this regional growth strategy, because that's going to create an OCP that the government will impose on most of us, that our OCPs will have to match it. So let's see what it looks like before we get too carried away. Should we then change our municipal boundaries to match what we say, that's your real growth limits, and everything else is protected? Because we truly are in the region looking at first order of business in a regional growth is label or identify the areas you need to protect. And there is a commitment by all of us to do that. Now that that's protected, now how do you want to develop the rest? And where should we put what to make sense and to be sustainable? And I don't have all the answers yet, obviously, but it's being led by a very good group, and it's certainly containment boundaries are a serious part of that process. And if we didn't get them exactly right in everybody's mind, let's do our best to get them right. Understanding that 20 years from now it may all be moot. It could change again. You know, when I attended YVR 2004, which is a Futures Outlook, as well as when we hosted the small town conferences, in both cases, the most conservative ergonomist suggested Comox Valley would have 350,000 people by 2045. I'm no expert to tell you that'll happen or not. What it does tell me, we're going to have a lot more than we have now. And we shouldn't be looking at infrastructure, whether it's a deep water intake that'll satisfy the current projection by one body is that there'll be 88,000 people in Comox Valley in 2031. And I think that's far short of reality. Because it depends how you come to these conclusions. I think some folks are using the 2% average increase in population based on the consensus, or on the census rather, and that kind of straight line thinking is not going to fly, because we're going to have an exponential increase, I'm quite sure. When you look at Cumberland's development, that tells you right now that 2% is way out of whack. And there's a lot of pressure on Comox and Courtenay, so I don't think Comox Valley is going to fit into that projection. And if we underestimate that and build infrastructure accordingly, I don't have to tell you what the capital cost impact of that will be. We need to plan well ahead. And those may be fighting words to some people, saying we should keep it small and therefore we'll be forced to keep our community small. I honestly don't believe we have that ability. This is a free country. People can move here if they wish. That's what makes Canada, Canada. And for Cumberland or Comox Valley to think we can change all that isn't realistic, nor is it appropriate. So I truly believe our vision is to make it a welcoming place that does protect the environment, that does respect the wishes of the people in general, which means, you know, most political decisions, if you get 50% agreeing with you, you're doing okay. So I don't anticipate me or council can in fact please everybody. What I would say to those people though is disagree strongly, if you will, but don't attack personally. Councillors, every one of them, whether we agree with each other or not, are doing the very best they think they are doing for their community. There's nothing personal to gain. We're doing what we think's right. And by gosh, if the majority don't think we're doing right, they should throw us out. And you know, I respect that and expect it, in fact. So, but they shouldn't attack them personally. You may recall that's the only time I got annoyed at a public hearing is when people started naming councillors. Like, let's not go there. Just point out your opposition to what's happening, and that's fair enough. And I think overall council's heard. We've made some changes. And I know there's lots of challenges about the so-called silent majority, but certainly the messages we've been getting from, to me, I can only speak for me, outside of the public hearings, the majority by far have been get on with it. And I think the elections confirmed that, but with the message. And we got the message. Be very careful how you get on with it. And that's okay. And I think we've got a council that is diverse enough to make sure nobody's going to get away with having one person opinion operate that council. And that's healthy. I've always said in the past, if we're going to all think the same, then let's just take turns coming to the meeting one at a time. There's no point in wasting a lot of time or effort having 5 people there. So I encourage disagreement. Just keep it respectful. But I have a very optimistic, exciting vision of Comox Valley in the future. I see a valley that's not hung up on this feuding between communities, that we move closer together and shake hands, and how can we work together to make it make more sense for individuals. You know, in the past there was this great fear of that A word, because there was at least a perception, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, that it was a takeover effort.
Amalgamation, you're speaking about?
Yeah, that bad word. But you know, finally, and I'm so excited that we've got 3 mayors and rural directors that are not using that word. They're talking about cooperation. And I believe it doesn't matter what happens in the future. If the public comes and says, you know, you're cooperating so well, why do we have all you politicians? And they choose to cut down, that's fine. But if it's operating so well, maybe there won't be any demand for anything. Just leave it alone. So I have no fear of the change or the future. I think as long as we work as we are regionally right now, without personal egos and interests and parochialism, that we will benefit as a valley.
Great. Sounds like a good place to...
Good place where I'd like to be.
Right on. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you for the
very
opportunity.
comprehensive. I really appreciate it.
I hope it captured the essence of what you were after.